Yo! What is good, everyone? How are y'all today? Kind of scrambling into the stream this morning out of morning meetings. I got to apologize for the late start. Thank you for your patience. Y'all have good weekends. Salutations, Bonch. What's good, Saf? Welcome in, dude. Coffee, Heidi. Yes. Paul, welcome in from sunny Maryland. It is cold, wet, and gray in Portland. Zamertz, welcome in. How you doing, homie? I like this. Heidi says, today is a I say hi to those who say hi first day, followed by a bunch of hellos. That's awesome. Yeah, time to make our brains bigger, right, Samaritans? Huh. Every color intelligence has the ability to be on the positive or negative side. Huh. Jafar, welcome in. Oh yeah, the audio glitching is still present in each of the streaming services currently available through Streamlabs. It has been that way for, how many months now, guys? How many months? 6 months, maybe? We really do need just to set up a private playlist of everyone's music here and just make it a community radio station. That's what we should do. We should put someone in charge of that. Heyo! What's up, Paintball? How you doing? Oh, Heidi, you're awesome. Could be the vinyl needle needs replacing, right? Oh. Ooh, public radio station. And he'll be the DJ. 24/7. Welcome to the smooth sounds of Vinyl Glitch Radio. I lasted a while on mine. All right, so sound design. I'm gonna do a quick little recap of where we came from, where we started, and where we are now. It's good to do this. It's good to do this. It's not a waste of a few minutes at the beginning of each class because not everyone was here in week 1. Some people might have missed a week somewhere in between. Sure, it's good to get a little recap. But more importantly, it's important for your brain muscles, like your muscle memory. It's important to have this like consistent chant of these deep fundamentals so you can forget about them. Like, that's really it. Like, I want you guys to be able to master the fundamentals, the absolute basics, to the point where you don't think about them. You don't sit there and think about conjugating verbs or, you know, what the intended use of a vowel is when you speak. You just speak. So that's where we're going. We just want to get you to the point where you don't think about the stuff that you don't need to anymore. You focus on the creativity. So that said, we're going to head on over. Yeah, it's nothing but 24/7 vinyl pop noises. Whew. Oh, Midnight Caller. Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah. I did have my favorite shows with DJs, like WKRP in Cincinnati was definitely one of my favorites. Johnny Fever, he was a good fun DJ. Oh man, with a real human side. Oh man. Let's see here. Where is our Discord? There's our Discord. I have not looked at this yet. Tremties posted something, says, okay, since you're all a very big fan of glitches and weird sounds, how to create incredible sounds with aliasing artifacts. You guys want to look at this really quick? I kind of do. Let's just hit pause on this background music over here.
Hi there, Wangland here. Today I'll show you how to generate really cool metallic sounds and glitches like these ones.
I make a lot of these types of sounds for UI. In fact, I'm working on a pack right now. We could even clean up some of these sounds together today after we're done learning. Let's do that. Such good sounds.
To create these neat sounds, we'll be taking advantage of something called aliasing in audio. If you don't know about aliasing, let me explain it really quick.
Oh, this is actually kind of long.
All audio signals are just combinations of many different waves at various frequencies. When you capture the signal using a digital recording system, it will end up being band limited because you can only sample so many individual points in that original signal. The amount of points you record every second is called the sample rate. So if your signal has frequencies above what the sample rate can handle, it'll end up looping back down. And this is called aliasing, and it's usually considered a very bad sounding artifact. However, for the sound design technique I'm going to show you today, we want those exact artifacts. So make sure there are no anti-aliasing measures in place before doing anything. Most digital audio workstations have settings for audio resampling somewhere. Just have a quick search on the internet and you should know where to look. In FL Studio it's here for real-time audio and here for rendering. To make sure we'll get lots of juicy aliasing artifacts, I'll load up a very simple synth with no built-in anti-aliasing filter and just crank up the pitch a bunch. Immediately you can see and hear the sine wave I'm playing bounce back into lower frequencies. If I play a saw wave instead, you can hear how the aliasing artifacts alter the waveform into something completely different. So everything is working just fine, or not, but like that's the point today. Instead of making patches of our own that we'll mangle later, I'll be using lots of random songs from a music folder instead. This way we don't have to generate hours of material before we get to have some fun. Make sure to select pieces of music that are generally soft and dynamic, and not brick walls of loud noise, otherwise the results might suffer a little. Oh, I forgot to mention you have to watch this render for f***ing hours. Now we just pitch up this music a bunch without any fancy stretching algorithms. Just regular old pitching up that makes the sample shorter, you know? Since we're pitching up all our samples so much, basically all of the audio will turn into aliasing artifacts, forming completely new sounds in the process. Now we render this beauty and listen to the results. I already mentioned this before, but something you might notice here is that the parts that were loud before processing sound really messy and harsh.
This guy's giving away my secrets, man. Like, he's going into great detail about how to get this stuff done. Man.
Afterwards. Maybe you'll find these bits useful, but I personally don't really like them, so I tend to only use softer music as my raw input material. Here's something else I tried out. Downloading a bunch of episodes of a podcast to see how voices would sound after processing with this weird technique. I personally don't really listen to podcasts, so the only one I know of is the Tone Vendors podcast. It's about sound design and stuff. I've heard lots of nice things about it, so this was my choice of audio material. Here's what it sounds like before processing.
I was having to detect all of that real time.
And after processing. These results aren't that interesting if you ask me. Podcasts consisting of basically just people talking are pretty monotone if you squint your ears and broadly listen to hours and hours of content. I'm absolutely not saying they're boring or anything, just that for the specific sound design technique there's probably better raw audio we could use. That being said, I also tried selecting a bunch of random samples and recordings from my archives and processing those as well. I thought since I've got all kinds of weird...
Okay, I'm going to needle drop past his next selection of sounds and get to some more results.
Many days making a bazillion sounds using this technique, carefully picked out the best ones and put them into a sample pack together with a lot of other sounds that I carefully handcrafted for this project. If you remember my video about designing super fun and wonky percussion loops with granular delays, I also put a bunch of sounds I made with that technique into the sample pack. They're kind of in the same genre of weird, metallic, glitchy, witchy noises, so they fit together very nicely. The sample pack is called Data Hammer, and will be available tomorrow if you're watching this video on release day.
Data Hammer.
Oh, did I mention? This love Bubs, Declan, Silver.
I think maybe we missed
Hammer,
the
and will be available
last roundup of
sounds like this all day.
There we go. Yeah, it's ironic that he's talking about all of those sounds because I am quite literally, this is, gosh, I don't even know where this is on my list of to-dos this week. It's probably 6 or 7 down the list, but I've got, I don't even remember, 300. I've got 300 of these that I need to go in and clean up. And many of them were kind of born out of that type of process originally. So the irony. It abounds. All right, so learning. Classroom. Saf decided to share some sounds that he made for his homework. But at the end of each segment, there is a bit of homework that you could do to continue to follow along and have something to work on between rounds of new information being absorbed. So just a quick little rehash. We've talked about what sound is: amplitude, pitch, and timbre. And pitch is the frequency range that's audible to humans. Okay, we still use frequencies outside of that range. The ones that are really low, that are outside of our range, we use as LFOs, as modulators. But for our purposes, the definition of sound, amplitude, frequency, and timbre, is simply not enough. So we have actually added more. We've added noise and silence and space. Okay, because we're looking at a much more holistic approach to sound design, because we're trying to create a language that you can use and wield as eloquently and effortlessly as your native tongue. So it can be different for each person, and that's fantastic. We've also touched on how envelopes are a universal basic modulator. It is basically the gate through which we perceive everything. And by envelope, we mean attack time, which is the amount of time that it takes to reach the full potential of something. The decay time, the amount of time that it takes to go from the point of full potential to the rate of sustain. And sustain is the point at which something comes to rest while still being triggered. And then release, the amount of time that it takes to fully resolve once the trigger has been removed. Okay, so attack, decay, sustain, and release. And we can go through each one of those again today, because we'll be using envelopes a lot. We've touched on what basic types of synthesis there are. We have not gone into all of them. We will slowly as we kind of progress through all of this. Just know that and by a lot, the most common form of synthesis is subtractive, because it simply means that somewhere between the oscillator, the point at which sound is generated or created, and the amp, the thing that allows us to hear that sound, somewhere between those 2 points, there was a filter. Okay, and the filter affected the timbre of our sound, the delivery of our sound, the shape of our sound, potentially all of those things simultaneously. Oftentimes they do. And that is a subtractive process because it's actually removing a part of our sound. Sorry, I just saw the comment of WKRP best live station reformat ever. Yeah, absolutely. Tubular Bells recording for vinyl accidentally picked up Morse code for a submarine. Whoa, really? No. Wow. Like an EQ, exactly. Exactly. So a filter is simply an EQ. Okay, so just really quick, let's pull up an EQ. So when we're looking at our EQ, let's say we're talking about a low pass filter in a synth. This is a low pass filter, and resonance is a peak at the point of cutoff. So what's happening? Cut off, because this is a cut, and it's cutting off the frequencies above this point because it is a low pass filter. In other words, low frequencies are allowed to pass through and high frequencies are cut away. So the same filter is also called a high cut. And this peak right here, at the very tip of it, at the point of the cutoff, is called resonance. Okay, so this right here is a low pass filter. So every filter that you see inside of a synth is just an EQ. Okay, there's been a shortcut created. There has been a certain range of parameters already established for you in your EQ, and then you now have the ability to modulate. So if you are modulating the frequency parameter, the cutoff parameter, you're moving your point of cutoff up and down, and if you are boosting resonance, you're quite literally accenting or adding amplitude, adding volume to very specific groups of frequencies. And when you move the filter like that, it's increasing the volume of those same frequencies. They decrease after that little boost rolls past, right? And they're being sharply attenuated on the other side. So these really, really stand out. And we will get into the do's and do nots of resonance and cuts and all that kind of stuff later. But that is the basic fundamental element of a subtractive synth. So one could argue that a lot of synths are subtractive because most synths have filters these days. There might also be other types of synthesis involved in those popular synths, like Serum, right? You can do sampling because you can load audio files into the noise oscillator. You can do FM synthesis and ring mod synthesis. It is a subtractive synth. It is also a wavetable synth. So nowadays, when we're talking about synthesis, our tools are rather complex, and they house or play host to a lot of these different things that used to be mutually exclusive. But we will be rolling through subtractive, additive, frequency modulation, amplitude modulation, phase modulation, granular, physical modeling, analog modeling, wavetable, phase distortion. I already said phase distortion, I think. sample-based, scanned, formant. The list continues to go on, and it continues to evolve. So then after the first week, we dipped into the very first bits of synthesis, which is looking at just the basic waveforms. And we create a lot of analogies and try to cross-pollinate with other parts of like day-to-day life. So there's a lot of crossover to food and cooking between the basic ingredients that we all use for certain things and the basic waveforms that we use in sound design, whether it be for music or screen or whatever. And there's just a ton of crossover there. But here are the basic waveforms. There's the sine, the triangle, sawtooth, and the pulse. And the pulse can be of varying sizes and timbres. And when the pulse is perfectly balanced, it's called a square wave. We also talked about understanding what the core elements and components are of synths in general, but we will go through today and just slowly look at and name each one of those things, and take our time going through it. The focus of today's, let's just pull this up, is going to be an introduction to sampling. Okay, we're going to come back to each one of these things. We're going to come back and look at synthesis and all this stuff. But we've got to look at the basics of each one of the main categories. Okay, so today we'll dip into some audio. But before we do that, we're going to walk through like the basic architecture of a modern synth. And that way everyone feels as though they are on equal footing as we go into the next phases of all of this together. Okay, so first there's the oscillator. And I can't remember if we actually sat down and had the conversation last week or the week before about like my perception of what an oscillator is versus what most people's is before they get introduced to this other way of thinking. Okay, so most people are thinking that, I don't know why I loaded this up as an effects. I just loaded up as an instrument. Hey, Allegromancer, how you doing? Assume you work from the East Coast synthesis model for any of these discussions. Okay, so most people would be pretty quick to agree that an oscillator is something that generates sound, and it's kind of where the whole creation process begins in a synth. I would argue that oscillators are all around us, and we need not look at a synth to understand what's happening. Our vocal box is a very complex one when it comes right down to it. There are even more simple oscillators that affect us in profound ways. You could walk outside and just hear a whole bunch of them in action right now. Even in winter, there are leaves and needles left on trees, and as air moves past them, it vibrates them. It allows us to hear the air around us, basically. It's anything that moves and emits sound, really. And, you know, we call them oscillators because things are kind of oscillating in some kind of a cyclical fashion. Even if you were to pluck a guitar string, which seems like a pretty cut and dry up and down kind of thing, if you zoom way in on those guitar strings, they're oscillating. They're going around. And because of that, we tend to speak of things in cycles. And when you're taking a look at an oscillator in a synth, we refer to these waveforms as single cycle waveforms. In other words, it draws the shape of the waveform one time, and then it just keeps repeating it. And the tone that's emitted is the byproduct of that, of running basically electricity through or energy through that shape at a very specific frequency. And the frequency is the rate of oscillation, the rate at which something is moving. Yes, leaves are modulating the air carrier. Exactly. Oh, nice, Legomancer. Excellent. The sound of air. And the sound of air is really, really important because it's not just the sound of air. It's not just the sound of the molecules bumping up against something. It's so much more than that. And this is why when we look at the definition of sound, when you look it up and you see amplitude, frequency, and timbre, it just doesn't add up. Not to me anyway. That's why we have to add the noise and the silence and the space, because there's also proximity and density, right? Opacity. There's so much stuff, reflectivity. So we are like analyzing and processing stuff constantly. And we would know if things around us simply stopped oscillating, because we would be cut off from the world around us entirely. We would see, but there would be no sound, and it would negate the kind of sense of reality in relation to a lot of the things that we're perceiving. Everything is affected by sound. So without it, we're sent for light. We're in a real loop. We're kind of in trouble. So anyway, there's the oscillator. Okay, so anything that generates sound, anything. And there's the filter, and we just mentioned that, which is just EQ, right? A sub oscillator is just an oscillator that by its native pitch position, it plays a lower frequency tone. That's all. Noise. Oftentimes, these are samplers. So these are actual like wave files or whatever that are being served up. They're just recordings. And you can bring those up in level and mix and meld them with your sound. Many synths have 2 oscillators or more. And we talked a bit about voicing last week, and we will get all the way down the rabbit hole of all that stuff when we start talking about synthesis exclusively. We talked about envelopes. Okay, envelopes are the original mother modulator. They are the original gate. They are the all-powerful. Everything runs through an envelope. Then there are LFOs, very similar to envelopes, though they are not finite. They continue to go. They are an oscillator. They are something that moves. An envelope is something that we follow. Okay, an envelope is something that a sound or a signal follows. And an LFO is an oscillator, and an oscillator is something that moves and emits frequency, basically. We can't hear LFOs, but as soon as we connect them to something, we can hear the effect of that LFO. And we will get deep down the rabbit hole of LFOs and modulation as well. There's also the amp, right? You got to be able to hear your sound, and the amp is what does that. Typically speaking, nowadays there are macro controls, which allow you to control many parameters with the twist of a single knob. Effects, which are special processes that affect the timbre of your sound. A routing matrix, so you can keep track of all of the modulation assignments that you make while programming your synth. There's typically some sort of settings or global stuff too, right? So you know how to like set up and understand your tool. And then of course, presets, right? Like the often overlooked presets. And I'm going to harp on you guys to start using presets in fun and creative ways, but also just in really simple and mundane ways that can help you cut down on a lot of the stuff that you're going to work really hard on memorizing right now. All the stuff that you can stop thinking about soon. Okay, so that's the basic lay of the land for synthesis. And the reason why we go over it again right before we talk about sampling is because a lot of the same kind of terminology and parameters are going to be found in sampling tools as well, right? And it's important to understand why you see those things. All right, let's see if anybody had questions during that before we move on here. Gravity does make a difference. Yeah. Air is a broad spectrum impulse generator. Yeah. Larry, the Pluto of math. Yeah. Oh, our tracks would sound super muddy on Mars. Yeah. Or rather, I should have said wind. Air itself can be static and is just a medium to carry the impulses. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. My kid and I were talking about weather. Like, what do you need to make weather? Because you can't discount heat. Without heat, there is no movement. And all you really need is air or atmosphere and moisture and heat, and it just gets the whole thing going. It makes the wind, it makes everything. Yeah, serious basics. Those were raccoons in love, not cats fighting. That's the button you have the most experience with in Serum is the load preset. That's awesome. I like that. Well, soon it'll be the save preset and load preset. It'll be kind of shared because you'll be saving and opening a lot of your own presets. Okay, so sampling. We talk about it so flippantly now, like it's a pretty profound thing. It is a simple thing, but it's rather profound. Like the implications of it are still being explored, right? And all of our synths, by the way, are samplers because those single cycle waveforms that the oscillators are producing sound from, in most synths, those are samplers. Like those are samples that are being served up. So in a way, these are really fancy samplers. All right, so let's just take a look at our words here. What is sampling? So basic history and common components of modern samplers. So very much like our synth conversation, we have the basics of a sampler as well. And I think I might just open up sampler from Logic. I'm still getting used to this interface. I know it's been here for a minute now, but I'm still getting used to it. So typically speaking, the part of the sampler that we worry about first is the mapping. Like how do we get a sound to play, and what is the sound going to be when it plays, right? And what is it that triggers the sound? So whether it's a keyboard that you're using or a drum pad or whatever, it's engaging with MIDI nowadays. Like if we're looking at this on a screen, we can kind of compare to the analog cousins as we go along. But if I were to drop a sound, let's just go find a small sound. Let's grab one of these little button sounds here and drop it on a key. Now, whenever I press that key, I'm going to get that sound. But if I press a different key on my keyboard, I hear nothing. Now, if I was to map that sample to those different keys, I will hear it mapped across those keys. Like when I trigger the sound, going to play those, right? You'll hear that this is following pitch. So as it goes up, it also goes up in pitch, but it's also going up in speed. And if I was to map this down, in other words, allow keys to trigger below, so the reason why it's getting lower in pitch is because it's being slowed down. And there are limitations and capabilities that range. Like, there are some samplers that can do incredible things that others can't even come close to. Some samplers do things very simply, while other things are very, very complicated. So very much akin to the various types of synthesis and the various types of synths that we can play with. The world of sampling is rather complex and wide and varied. The concept, though, is incredibly simple, the same way that the concept of synthesis is simple, right? We've got an amp envelope, which allows us to shape the delivery of our sound before it reaches our amp, which is what allows us to hear the sound, right? So the trigger here is our oscillator, basically, in this equation. If we put a filter in there, it gets a little bit closer to what we were just looking at workflow-wise with synthesis. Of course, all of the same effects that would be available to us in a synth these days are available to us in samplers. They were not always. Certain things were just not even considered for a really long time. But this right here is the basic bare bone guts concept of a sampler, is if you trigger it above its root, which is the place where it was originally triggered. In this case, it was C2. So anything above that is played faster and therefore a higher pitch. Everything below it, slower, therefore a lower pitch. And there are lots of things like pitch follow. So now I'm playing a bunch of different keys. And since I'm not following pitch anymore, I'm just triggering the sound. As soon as I start to follow pitch again, it changes. So super basic view of a sampler at this point, or a sampler at this point. Multi-sampled instruments and how dynamics are achieved. This comes about by starting to tap into more of the features. So horizontally is what we've been talking about. The horizontal mapping is what we've been talking about up to this point, which is pitch. Okay, as we go up or down keys in an instrument, we go up or down in pitch. Vertical mapping is a thing too, though. Okay, so just as there are 128 keys horizontally, there are also 128 steps vertically in velocity value. And you can think about this like as a tight correlation to volume, because it's the first thing that you might notice that could be different between hitting something with a high velocity and playing something really subtly, right? So the way that is achieved is through velocity mapping. So one of the parameters that is tied to velocity in the sampler in its basic form is volume. So if I was to map this out to just the lowest velocities, I can't really even hear it. Start to bring it up. You see what's happening? It's not that we can't hear it at low velocities. It's that I'm playing notes at a higher velocity, and there's no sample mapped to that area. So let's do this. Let's go and grab a different sample, maybe this one. Okay, so we'll put this one up here. So now this guy is mapped up top, while the little guy the difference is velocity. I'm playing two different velocities. If I wanted to, I could keep stacking different sounds in here. Let's put this one in the middle. So I'm actually creating different pitches and tones by playing different velocities, but the same sounds are mapped for the entirety. Like all of the keys are playing the same sounds at those same velocities. So the way in which you decide to divvy up your sounds is entirely up to you, but this is how we start to build a multi-sampled instrument. You start to put more than one sample into your map. Okay, and the way that you start to achieve dynamics is you have a different a different velocity recording of the same note or the same instrument in the same position many times over. So you have a high velocity recording and a really, really subtle recording. And maybe you have a few more in between. And then you just lay those out in your sample map accordingly, right? So the high velocity sounds are heard when you strike a high velocity note with your keyboard. Hopefully all of that translates and makes sense for y'all. Hey, Drummy's here. What's up, dude? I think, therefore, your raccoons are sexy. Paul says, I start from presets too. Why reinvent the flat tire? But twiddle parameters to make sounds more interesting. Yep. Raccoons got more pitch. They're louder than cats. Just hoping to get a bit better than blindly twirling knobs to try to find something that sounds cool. Yes, that is exactly what this will do for you, Allegromancer. It'll give you the understanding of what each of those things is doing. So then you can just kind of forget about it. Yeah, then we get into kontakt territory. Exactly. Kontakt is really nice for layering. And most synths nowadays will allow you to do most of those same things. It's the scripting and stuff that kontakt really gets its dues. So one of the things that I love about kontakt is just how simple it is to get going with sounds. So in different ways. Let me just plug in a hard drive here. All right, reinitiate that. And by that, I mean it has these modes in which you can run in, which makes things very simple. So if I was to drop a sound in there, we'll just grab one. Let's see what this thing sounds like. That's nice. Another brilliant example of why you always need to audition your sounds across many octaves. That's gorgeous down there, right? That's just a UI sound that I made, but it's gorgeous down there. Anyway, I was going to talk about modes. So if you click on the little configuration wrench icon over here, you get taken to the back end of Kontakt. And this is where all of the magic happens, so to speak. One of the things that's really great about Kontakt is their direct from disk technology, which is the mode in which it runs in by default. It used to be that it would be a traditional sampler model, which means if you had a 5 megabyte sound that you wanted to sample, you would load that into your sampler. It would basically put that sound into your RAM. So when you pushed a button, it was ready to be served up for you. The problem with that approach seems pretty obvious. If you're working with a lot of sounds, you're going to run out of RAM really quickly. You're going to run out of the local resource very, very quickly, and it's going to bog down your entire system, and then nothing will work. So what direct from disk does is it caches a little bit of that sound, but then it draws the rest from the actual disk that the sound is being sourced from. This allows you to load much larger instruments, much, much bigger sampled instruments. So that's one thing. The other thing that's really nice about these different modes is that I can quickly move into a mode that will still allow me to affect pitch, but not playback speed, which is really essential. So here's that down low sound, the one that was all long and drawn out. Here, let me just move that back. Listen to how slow that was. But if I don't affect the playback speed, so now everything is playing at the same duration. And there are different modes that you can operate in, which are all pretty great. And we'll dip into those like specifically through Kontakt, so you get to understand how those all work. Vocals, pianos, strings, these are all things that you expect to have a lot of dynamics. So you're going to see a lot of multi-sampled instruments for those types of sounds. And then there's just, the fact that a sampler is anything that's triggering a sound file, anything. So this is a drum machine, right? If we have, let's just load one up. All right, so here's a blank drum machine, right? Now I could start dropping the same exact kinds of samples on there. Let's grab another random button and put it on this drum machine here. So here's C2 again. And there's our button. And this is the same exact kind of sampler as the other guys. There's going to be a few things that kind of feel different about it. If I was to load up battery, for instance, these two would look a lot alike, but there's quite a bit of stuff that you can do with one that you can't do with the other. But the format is very similar in that you've got pads. Instead of like with Kontakt, you're more focused on keys, right? Like keyboard keys. But they're both doing the same exact thing. In fact, you can even play chords and stuff with trigger pad samplers. And you see people do it all the time with Machine or Push or whatever. So even though they start to look quite different from one form factor to another, they're all doing the same basic thing. Push button, get sound, right? You just need to let it know where that sound lives, right? And then the next series of decisions is basically just how can I affect this sound or the delivery of this sound to get it across in the way that I want to. And that's really it. It really is that simple. And if you're always starting with shape, like we were talking about last week, if you always start with shape and worry about timbre second in this process, things become much, much easier. It also allows you to learn your different tools much quicker, because you're not going to be hung up on the most basic functions. You're going to get those out of the way. You're going to learn your lay of the land very quickly. And since you won't be worrying about timbre, you're not even going to touch the large majority of things. You just want to learn about shape. So you know exactly where to go in those tools. And it helps you feel very comfortable quickly, instead of feeling like a stranger in a strange land for an extended period of time. Okay, so just like, and this is in regards to music. Last week we talked about the core four, the core four sound types in synthesis, if you will, and that would be the bass, the lead, the pad, and the effects. And then the sampling, we kind of flip the script and we put all of the drums over here. We don't need to do this because of course we can synthesize our own percussive sounds, but it's kind of like a state the obvious thing, right? Because when we talk about a pluck is a percussive sound. So, and I'm trying to help you create the air of, not ambiguity, but, well, let me rephrase this. To help you shine a light on just how arbitrary some of the delineations are that have been made for a really long time in sound, and they don't need to be. For instance, why would plucks have to be sequestered to just leads? We use plucks all the time for basses. We use them for anything that we want to articulate quickly and clearly, right? Just like a long attack and decay sound shouldn't be relegated to only pads. A lead could have that as well. It's more about the intention, the function of something in a mix or in a project that really, really matters. So I'm trying to kind of help you blur those lines and force these kind of questions in your head. Anyway, the four core on this side of things, when it comes to the drum pad style samplers, we're talking kick, snare, tom, and hats. Okay. Now you could easily argue that it could just be like drum and hat and ox perk or something like that, right? But for the sake of the class and meeting the needs of many, we're going to leave this as kick, snare, tom, and hat. And I guess before we even go further in this, we should see if anybody does have any questions about basic sampling. And I would remind you guys that there are really no stupid questions. Even if it's something like really basic that you've been kind of scared to ask people for a really long time because you don't want to sound stupid or something, don't even worry about it here. Yeah, Javar, exactly. You can use the scripts and kontakt to get really great control over effects and delivery and stuff. Yeah, Zamerits, I bet you would make the coolest instruments, dude. Seriously. Like, there are people that I know that were like so anxious about getting started with kontakt scripting, but then once they did, they were like, this is easier than I thought it was going to be. And if they're a musician, they actually find it to be quite fun because they're able to test their results quickly, and then that births more ideas and it snowballs. But I bet you would really like it. It's quite the rabbit hole. Yeah, so Javar is pointing out something here. The whole one-shot thing with drum samplers. I really like having a flexible one, like battery. The reason why I like battery so much is because it's more of a sound designer's sampler in a lot of ways. No, I shouldn't say a sound designer sampler. It's a sampler for sound designers that want really great discovery. But I'm a fan of a tool that has a few like signature functions, right? Or things that it offers that others simply do not, that you would be using yet another plugin for to accomplish. And battery has several of those things, but I like kind of, you know, playing around with the idea of having one shots commingled with gated samples, grouping different sounds together, and then setting their root key in wildly different places, just to see what kind of texture and playback combinations you can start to get. And then it's also got a whole bunch of really great stuff in regards to like, where are we here? Oh, it's in the setup tab. The articulation and the MIDI echo and the humanize options over here, they're just really fast ways to speed up just like ideation and stuff. Triggering sounds multiple times, stuff like that. I'll just grab a sound at random and give you guys an example. Where am I? Am I on the right thing here? Instrument 5. Yes, I am. And what is this one? Where am I? Oh, I'm way down here. All right, so if I was to turn on articulation, it's a 3-stroke rough, and slow it way down, speed it up. Yeah, just some really cool stuff that you could do with delivery, articulation, echo, stuff like that. So it makes the exploration of your samples a bit more interesting and increases the opportunity for discovery for sure. The constant sync, Heidi, the constant sync. The kids in the hall skit. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes. Me liking the Ox perks too, Javar. Paintball, that's so the point of all of this, is that none of these things are above anyone. Truly. Truly, even if it means having to sit down and look at just the basics thing, like just the week one, the day one thing, 10 times or 20 times or 30 times or whatever it is that it takes to help you have that aha moment. Because as soon as you have one of those, you start to get a little bit more confidence. And that's really what holds us back with so much of this stuff, is thinking like thinking that we can't, or thinking that it's someone else's kind of thing or whatever. But really, like, as soon as you understand the basic definitions of just the most core essential parameters, you reclaim so much control and power in all of this. It really is. It really is quite good. Quite good for you, quite good for your music. Yeah, battery has a few really cool things. It is quite fun. Squirrel pockets. Oh, ideation. Ideation. There it is. Ideation. Oh, we'll just put it up here. All right. Yeah, if you understand the theoretical, that's all that matters at first. Just not really how to make it into a sound that is nice. Yeah, okay, that's perfect, because that comes next. Thinking that all of it happens at once is a really good way to just keep yourself from ever getting any of this. But one small bite at a time, and you will get all of it. All of it. Yes, exactly. Aha moments followed by what ifs lead to corollaries. Yes. Ooh. You know, that actually just gave me an idea. Heidi needs to make a plugin that's actually a random name generator based upon her ideas and sense of humor. And all the plugin does is name presets for you. That would be dope. Be a great little service, really. I'd use it. Yes, right? You become this like central figure. Yeah, right? I think a lot of people would probably use it for real. Maybe I'll add that to our development list. Speaking of theoretical, here's modular synthesis. Okay, so the super basics, right? It's all we're really focused on in these first couple of weeks with all of this. And everyone that feels like they're way beyond this, it's cool. They can go about their lives for a couple of weeks while everyone else is getting their toes wet. Totally fine. Okay, so last time the homework was try your hand at making some of the core 4 type sounds. Excuse me, plucks, pads, bass and effects, right? Just in some genres or direction that you wouldn't normally produce in, just so you can focus the majority of your energy on the workflow of getting the shape and then the timbre that you're going for. So this time, the homework, if you will, for this is to start playing with samplers, both the pad style and the keys style from scratch, which means dragging sounds onto some keys, dragging some sounds in there and just playing with them. It doesn't have to be any more than that. It is simply just getting over the hurdle of starting with one of your own sounds instead of starting with a complete sound that somebody else made. Just so you know how easy it is to drag and drop a sound on that thing and then start playing keys. It really is just that simple. And I think that if you want to do anything more than that, then tuning into one of the many really inspiring documentaries or short films about sampling that you can find on YouTube or Netflix or whatever. I think that of your choosing in any sample. It looks like I deleted a letter here. But yeah, just something that can kind of help you get juiced, just kind of excited about doing this kind of stuff yourself. We all get excited when we watch other people do awesome things with sampling. Of course we do. It's like freaking magic. We oftentimes think that those things are unattainable for us. So just do it. Just try tossing some samples in there. Y'all got a bunch of free samples to play with. And let's also see if commands are working again today, and put the sounds here. Hey, it works today. Yay. And the Discord. Hey, it's working. How do you get the sound to start with? Do you record it or just use the default one from Serum? Okay, yeah, so let's do this. Let's do this. Let's just walk through the process. And let's do kontakt. Okay, there's a few reasons why we're going to stick with kontakt for a lot of this stuff. The big one being that anyone can download kontakt. So the way that you're going to get started with this is you're going to have some wave files. That's what you need to get started. And it can be any kind of wave file. If you are unsure if you even have samples that you can use, you could bounce your own, okay, which is why we start with the synthesis thing. For those that have actually taken like classroom classes from me, they can attest that I would actually steer you in the direction of making some sounds and bouncing them into audio files and then loading those audio files in a sampler so you can kind of get the whole meal deal, if you will. So you can come in here and like create a little pluck, right? Bounce it out to a wave file. And then you just take that wave file and you quite literally just drop it into the empty space inside of kontakt, and it creates an instrument for you. If you're a Logic user, you can even drag and drop a file right over here. It'll create an instrument for you. I'll show you that. And let's use something that is not just a UI button. Let's do a drum. All right, so here's a kick. It's just a wave file. I'm just going to drop it right here into kontakt. And it mapped that sample across all of the keys. So now, I've just made an instrument inside of kontakt. If you want to see the mapping editor and see where that sample was just mapped, just click on this mapping editor right here. Click on the configuration gear or icon over here in the corner to open up the back end, and then mapping editor. And you'll see this yellow region. You can grab it, you can move it, you can make it taller or smaller, that's velocity. Side to side, that's pitch mapping. This yellow key here is your root note. So that means that's the note that the original sound will play on. So if you want to remember what that sounded like in the very beginning, play your root note. And then for the really quick rewarding stuff, right? If you're afraid to twist things inside of here, it's okay. You've just put stuff inside of a sampler. Now have fun with it. Even if it just means like putting a big delay on there or something. You're going to start thinking about your sound and hearing your sound obviously differently than you would have had you just dropped it into your arrangement window. And that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point. This first time through, that's really all you need to do. Oh yeah, I was going to show you taking that same sample now as a Logic user, if you happen to be one. And you just hover over the sidebar here, like where the track headers are. And it'll allow you to bring this into a sampler, a quick sampler, or an optimized sampler. There is a difference between these two. Don't even sweat it right now. Just pick one and go. Drum Machine Designer will give you a drum pad style. Sampler will give you a keyboard style. Alchemy is a synth slash sampler, and it's a beast. It's absolutely a beast. But if you were just to drop these on either Drum Machine Designer or Sampler, it's just going to create it for you, and away you go. Oh, Javar. We need to get you like a little sample over here that other people can trigger in chat. That'd be great. So yeah, this all seems really technical and kind of out of reach at first if you haven't done it from scratch. But seriously, like any of the tools that you've used where you've loaded in a preset, you can just, there's usually an init, which stands for initialize or new preset or something like that. And it takes you to the kind of default state of, or the initiated state of your tool. And that's really where you want to start each time for the next long while until it feels like kind of silly to be doing it, really. And that's just pretty indicative of the fact that you're ready to move on from that point. And that's when you just save all of these things as presets, so you don't have to do them anymore. And it's just really simple, right? Like, let's just look at how simple we can keep this. This is our serum here. Yeah, okay. So let's just say what I want in this first preset that I make is to be a basic pluck shape. And I'm going to use my amp envelope to make the basic pluck shape. Okay, well, that's the right idea. It doesn't sustain completely. I just need to take down my decay because 2 seconds is really long. That's a pretty good pluck. But if I increase my release, now it sounds a little bit better, maybe? Let's say we really like that pluck. I could save that. So I could just go up and click this save button here, this little disk button. And I'm actually going to create a new folder here. We'll just call this learning. So I'll create that folder. And inside of learning, I'm just going to create basic pluck. Okay, so now if I'm, just tooling around and I think to myself, oh, you know what I could do? I could just go grab my basic pluck shape. I go to my learning folder, I go to basic pluck, and boom, there it is. Right? And so now I've got my shape and I can go and I can grab any wavetable. Right? So first shape, then timbre. So all of your sounds are going to have the same exact delivery no matter which one you load up here. Okay? Now that's basic pluck, right? We shaped that through amplitude. Let's just start this again. We're just going to go and initialize preset again. So now we're exactly where we were. I'm going to take my sustain down. Wait, no, I'm going to leave it the same. I'm going to go over my filter this time. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a different envelope. I'm going to take my sustain down, so it's a pluck again. And I'm going to put this on the cutoff. I'm going to click Shift Option, click here, which takes it from bipolar, or moving in two directions, to unipolar, which is one direction. I'm just going to bring the cutoff here. And now, same exact sound, but this one is actually being shaped through my filter. So I could save this one too. And I could put it at a learning, and I could call it basic pluck, but we'll call it filter, or maybe basic filter pluck. Whatever makes the most sense for you. Right, so now you've got the two most basic forms of pluck. You've got the pluck that's shaped through amplitude, and you've got the pluck that's shaped through frequency. Now you never have to create that thing again. And whatever you stick through there, like, you know, let's just load up a preset here. That is now being run through this basic filter pluck shape. And each time you get to a point now with this sound where you're feeling pretty good about it and you think it's worthy of being saved, you just save it and give it a new name. And let's say 10 days from now, you have 30 plucks. Well, maybe you should put all those plucks into a pluck folder and keep all your pads in a pad folder or whatever. And the more you add, the more you grow. Just keep it organized. You'll be able to navigate to these things quickly and easily. If you need to add more folders to stay more organized, you add more folders, and that's it. Paul says, everything Chris has done here, dumping wave into kontakt, open up avenues of sound for me. Dumping OhmLab collections and triggering with VCV rack makes it easy to make tracks. Yeah. Ooh, Schoolhouse Rock songs for synthesis. Boom. Okay. So Paintball is saying, but if it's that simple, how do I know I'm not just ripping someone else's pluck? Well, you know, because you're making it. And this is the thing about synthesis, is that you can arrive at the sound a number of different ways, right? The more you play with a sound to make it fit in a song, the more it becomes unique to you because it's serving your particular set of needs in that moment. Now, if you happen to be producing something that's, you know, somewhat ordinary in terms of like a specific genre or subgenre or whatever, then yeah, it can have a great deal of crossover or like relevance or applicability to someone else's stuff. But synth sounds are just that. They are sounds that you've conjured. They are not some copyrighted audio file, right? So there's one reason to explore the synthesis side of all of this, is that you really are creating these things. And if you want your stuff to really be yours, that's where the rest of this comes in. That's where the whole second half of this comes in. If we go back to the very first day and we talk about sound and what it is, it's amplitude and frequency, right? And timbre. So amplitude is volume and frequency is simply the pitch that it's registering at, and that's it. Okay. An elephant, a duck, and a platypus can all sing you a certain note at a certain pitch, and they're all going to sound incredibly different from one another, right? And the reason is because of timbre. And the reason why I bring this up in this very moment is because it's like 99% of everything is timbre. The shape, right? The amplitude and the frequency, the pitch that it's operating at and the shape that it has, that's it. Like that's a very, very small piece of the puzzle. So how to get your stuff to stand out from other stuff might be a better way of approaching this question. And then the answer becomes simple, right? Just play. Like once you have your shape down, then it's just a matter of knowing what your tool can do. And right now you don't know all of those things, so you feel very limited, but there's really just a ton of stuff that you could be doing. And that's where all of the really fun stuff starts. Like once you get the basics down. Like that just changed it dramatically. Now that was the same exact thing, but the LFO was operating at a slightly faster rate. Let's put that on the pitch. You can take a sound in so many different directions in no time at all. We can talk for months and months and months about how to set yourself and your sounds apart from other stuff. The very first step is getting past the barriers that either you've created or others have created. That's the very first thing. And because as soon as you feel liberated to do these things, it becomes simple, just like anything else. Just like anything else. We all used to draw and color when we were little, and we all know people that draw and color better than us now, and we call them professionals, right? If all of us stayed on the path of coloring and drawing, we would all be better than we are right now, and we know that. We can't all be Picassos, totally get that. But a lot of us can be rather proficient in things that we choose not to be, so we really can. We really can. If you use one pluck sound to make a second, is the first a mother plucker? Yes, that's right. Cool kids spell it timber and pronounce it timbre. Oh, that'd be good. Timber, the lumberjack sound pack. That's awesome. That's awesome. They have logarithm. Oh my God, Paul, you're on fire today. Hey, Zamerits, that's awesome. You're right now making a contact instrument. You know what? You're skipping ahead, actually, in the curriculum. You are analog, modular, semi-complete processing. Oh, it's next term. It's next term. Because there's a whole nother course after this that I put together. So anyway. All right, so about the super basics, because after this week, well, wait, actually, before we move on, let me just check the last. Oh, wavetables. Okay, let me get through wavetables really quick, and then I'll ask this question of everyone. So what is a wavetable? We talked before about a single cycle waveform, right? Like a sine wave or a triangle wave, right? It's just one complete cycle of that waveform. A wavetable is like a classic flip book. Going back to, we all used to draw in color. Do you remember making the little stick figure drawings? And you would like make them slightly different on the corner of each page in a book, and then you'd flip the corner page, or flip the corner of all of those pages and watch your little stick man walking. You guys remember doing that in school? That's basically what a wavetable is. It's a collection of single cycle waveforms. In other words, it's a collection of single images of waveforms, right? Just like single images of your walking stick figure, right? It's just like that. But this is just sound files. And if they're contiguous in nature, you can kind of string them along and you can have a smooth like discovery of sound or delivery of sound or evolution of sound. They can also be quite disparate and noisy, jumping from one idea to something completely different from one frame to the next. What is contained in a wavetable does not in any way, shape, or form define wavetable. Wavetable just simply means a stack or a collection of sound files that are loaded into an oscillator that you can then modulate across. So here's one that's actively being modulated. I'm going to turn off my filter and we're just going to listen to this sound. And if we look at what that is, these are the individual images, the individual frames. We're going to make one from scratch really quick so you can actually see this a bit more clearly. I'm going to load up the basic shapes. So here's a sine wave and here's a sawtooth. I'm going to go in and I'm going to delete all of the other waveforms in this wavetable. So now I only have on the left, when my knob is all the way to the left, I'm serving up a sine wave. And when my knob is turned to the right, I'm serving up a sawtooth. And right now, it's a hard switch between them, okay? So this wavetable is now making it possible for me to use two different waveforms in the same oscillator, which is pretty cool. And we could think of some cool ways in which we could use both a saw and a sine wave in a sound. We could also, though, go in and morph these two together. A simple crossfade is going to allow us to slowly morph a sine wave into a sawtooth. So let's just do that. Okay, so it's a really, really simple concept, but it has this profound range of applications. It has a ton of potential, the concept of a wavetable oscillator, because it allows you to have a movement in your sound, an evolution of your sound before it ever leaves the very first component in the signal flow. It hasn't even become any one of the synthesis types yet, except for wavetable. Right? It's not subtractive yet or FM yet or anything. You can do so much stuff with just wavetables. So it's a pretty profound thing. Hey, Saf, right there. I think lumberjacks can make good percussion hits as a sound pack as well as impact layers for an explosion or dark minimalist impact. Yeah, for sure. No, Zamirits, please keep skipping ahead. Keep drinking beer. Paint time and space with color for auras, but that's usually inaudible, so it's not all timbre. There are scanners that you can get. Like there are things that you could scan those colors and like actively get audio readings from them. Javar says, how can you possibly get through wavetables really quick? But we did, didn't we? We got through wavetables pretty quickly. What's up, Liv? and a party of 6. Welcome in, y'all. We are currently talking about wavetables, what wavetables actually are. And I'm not sure if I met the challenge. Javar, did we cover it really quick? I think the flipbooks analogy is one of the easiest because it takes us right back to childhood. And I think that dwelling in a childhood mind frame is the best mind frame to be in when learning about synthesis and sampling specifically. Paul says there are different implementations of wavetables, aren't there? PPG, different from ecosonic. Well, yes, but the fundamental concept is the same. It's just a group of waveforms. Yeah, and if you look at this in the other view, as Jafar points out, there is the 3D view as well. So we looked at this in the editor. This up here is the distribution of sine waves and their phase position in this row. This is representation of our sound in what's called additive synthesis, which basically theorizes that every sound can be made from just a series of sine waves and their phase position affected. This right here is just looking at what wavetable or what waveform is currently selected in the wavetable. If we click on the frame again, you see this 3D representation. And if you were to look at a more complex waveform in there, you see greater detail. So here's another one of my waveforms that's just really simple. Just a sine wave and probably some FM, and that's it. Or maybe sync. Sync. Probably. Wavetable is flipbook motion. There you go. Flipbook animation. Flipbook wavetable. Flipbook Soundnami. Oh man. That's a good one, Heidi. That's a good one. I like the Soundnami one. Flipbook Soundnami. Let's see. Let's get this. All right, I got it. Just open up your document here. All right, cool. Were there any questions in all of that? Liv, how was your stream? And how was your weekend? Trem ties. You left us and you got brought back in a raid. Oh, that's funny. What's up, DJ Empirical? Party of 6 is way better than Party of 5. Suck it, Matthew Fox. Oh yeah, the applications are nearly endless, right, Javar? Oh man. Liv says, been chasing a child's mindset ever since I became a not child. Wait, you became a not child? Dude. I've never understood what the modulations specifically do, just vaguely what they sound like. Gotcha. By the way, was beating up Liv for not getting Tape Op magazine. Hope you all do. Yeah, absolutely. Terry, who started Tape Ops, is down the street in Portland. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Everyone should know about it. Yes, it is the free mag of the recording arts. Yes. Stream and weekend were great. Fantastic. Fantastic. I should get Larry on the show. He's a really good guy. Good for you, Liv. All right, so Liv is saying, I've never understood what the modulations specifically do. Just vaguely what they sound like. So are you talking about like when modulating wavetable position? All right, so we've got enough time to dip into this. When we talk about, yeah, he is a cuddly teddy bear, absolutely. When we talked about envelopes and about how they're kind of the mother gate, they are the most basic and fundamental gate that we perceive, that our perceptions are controlled through, right? And the same is said with distribution or delivery of sound. When you're talking about LFO versus envelope modulation, the same exact rules apply. Everything still applies. The only difference is that the envelope is finite and the LFO is a generator. It's an oscillator. So as soon as you hit a key or as soon as that LFO is triggered on, it's just going to continue doing its thing at the exact rate that you told it to, in the exact shape that you told it to. And that's all it's going to do. And the envelope is going to get kicked off with the trigger, right, with your key being pressed or whatever. And then its next functions are completely reliant upon your next function. If you keep that key held, then it sits in that sustained position for a while. As soon as you release said key, that's it. It begins the release cycle. The only other thing you can do in between is something called aftertouch, which is after your finger comes to a full rest and you're fully sustained, you press further on your key and you can feel this range of give if you have a controller that supports aftertouch. And that's another modulation lane sitting under there. Okay, so that said, modulation and what is actually happening when you're modulating the wavetable position is you're moving a playhead. Okay, the oscillator has a playhead. And there's this piece of tape that's running through it, or you can think of it as a vinyl, okay? And you've got one cycle all the way around, right? So what this does is, it's easier to explain as tape though, because your playhead is static and you've got your tape running underneath it. Your modulator says it's going to move the tape back and forth. The playhead stays there. It's going to run this tiny little cycle. But this is like running through the entirety of the stack of waveforms, not just the single waveform that it's currently positioned on. So this modulation would actively move it across all of those other waveforms in the wavetable while it's serving up oscillations. Okay? You're a loop. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. It's not just as simple as one shot and no, because I could show you things in both massive and serum right now that would just break that, because we've just moved beyond that. Like, for instance, you can run an LFO as a trigger or an envelope here. You can sync it or it can run free. You can turn on loop generator points in the envelopes inside of massive. Like, there are functions in the modern tools that break every single rule that we will discuss in all of this stuff. But at its very core, if you think of envelope as finite and LFO as a generator, then things become a little bit more simple, right? Do you need something that's continuous, or do you just need something that's like very specific and done? And then that can kind of make things easier. One of the easiest ways to learn about depth and modulation of wavetable synths specifically is looking at the 3D view. If we leave this triangle shape here and we set it as a modulator of the wavetable position, and let's set it at a half note rate, that means it's going to be working at 120 BPM because it's synced to our DAW, which is at 120 BPM. If I play a key now, I have this running in envelope mode, which means it goes down, it runs through the shape, and when it gets to the end, it stops. If we leave this off, it's going to start back up in the cycle wherever it left off. If we put it on trigger, it's going to start from the same point every time. if we were to reduce the depth of modulation by half, it's only going to scan through half of the waveforms in this wavetable. I'm going to get something a little less. Ooh, there we go. So even though when at a more rapid articulation up here, this tiny bit of space being spanned in this modulation doesn't sound that dramatic compared to the amount of change over time you can disclose at a really low rate is profound. So if you're just wanting to impart some movement, you can hear the individual frames clicking right now. I wonder if we can better crossfade this. Let's see about that. And let's go morph and crossfade. We'll see what that does to our sound here. We can still hear the hard jump a bit. Paul says, when I got into producing, started subscribing to many magazines, recording, EQ, mix, sound on sound, tape op is the only one you still get. And it's free. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Function generators are just LFO with bad habits. Oh, that's awesome. Drumtie says, I gotta watch VOD for this. My head is being all weird. Can't gather any information today. I love what you do, and thanks for these lessons. Might see you around. Have a good one, Drumties. Take care, brother. Happens to me all the time. Tell me this isn't analog. Here's the big difference, right? You got to do some stuff to make that sound pretty creamy. But you can do it. You can get to the point of creamy goodness where you're not hearing those individual frames. Isn't digital really Berlin analog? Oh, man. All right, so I am, I think, going to work on a little bit of sound design for a little bit. And you guys can keep throw in questions at me if you want. We're going to look at the specific shape of swell for just a moment, because I got to get some stuff done inside the specific shape of swell. So let's just ditch out all of these. We'll figure out something to make here. Let's do kontakt, so we can run through the process of dropping some sounds in, making some changes. In Serum, can you set multiple voices to start at different waves in the wave table and move around? No. Not currently, no. Ooh. Middle East. I'm thinking, we should just make something kind of unique here. Let's do something from my dark energy pack here. Yeah, let's do like maybe a little noise and we'll mix it up. We'll do something in that kind of vein. I like it. Yeah, let's stretch something to get there. I don't want it to be that easy. Maybe another thing from Space Dust, since you guys are using Space Dust out there. Let's do a short one this time. Cool, let's take this and we'll bring this, we'll play this way down. Let's increase the attack on this. I'm actually currently triggering 3 different notes here, so I think I might actually play this. So with 3 different notes, we're not able to really discern the original shape of this thing, which is kind of nice. And let's just bump this right up to the edge here. And let's put a little bit more attack on there and make that a little more linear. Okay, and there's some low end that I do not want in there. Oh yeah, there's a lot of low end that I don't want in there. Let's just roll all of that out. See if we can get away with this. Cool. Okay. So first thing I did was get my shape in order, right? All I wanted was a swell shape, and now I've got that. So what I can do to kind of compartmentalize these processes is just print this right now. So we'll just call this a noise swell. So now we've got this swell, and it even looks like a swell shape. So that's good because we're doing something right. And then we can just start to play with this. Maybe a little bit of stretching on this, maybe a little granular stretching, give it a little metallic kind of edge. Maybe we'll like that. And oops, let's give this a little fade in and fade out. Loop around it. Let's give this a little granular delay. Kind of cream it out a bit. And then let's also just put some reverb on this, kind of obscure some of those details. Medium, maybe like a plate. Yeah, let's just take out the lows here. And the highs. Low pre-delay. All right, and let's get this thing up to an audible range that we like. And let's give this a bit of bite. Maybe not quite that much. All right, and let's roll some of the highs off of this guy. I don't know if I like the gating. Yeah, let's just make that a little more interesting instead of gated. Feedback. All right, let's give this thing a boost and maybe just a little less up top. I'll bring this down a bit. Sweet. Okay, so here's a wicked little swell here. And let's save this. This is, what is today? The 24th. Wow. Okay. And this is going to be space. Let's give this an add tag. Boom. Wish stupid pandemic would hurry up and get over so I get trucked back to Powell's bookstore, right? Right? It's always good to get into Powell's. So good. Yep. You can get a map. Yeah, they do posters. You can also, I think there's a free like walkable PDF thing that you can download to your phone or whatever. There's also like a free map that you can get inside the store if you don't have it all memorized. Powell's is like family here. Oh man, I bet your dad's library was very interesting, Paul. The hide and seek champion. Oh. Twice sold tales in Seattle, yeah. Wait, is Twice Sold gone? Oh man. Yeah, bookstores, man, there used to be bookstores worth traveling to, for sure. Yeah, never really saw the digital reading thing coming until it was actually happening. I always like had this thought that I would probably just like retire to the coast with a little bookstore or something because there were so freaking many of them. Now it's like, yeah, it's not even close to a reality. I worked in bookstores when I was younger. That's why. Yeah, Saf, for sure. For sure. Oh, man. Yeah. Different world. All right. Next spell. Do something without any noise this time. Let's do something pretty. See what happens. You know what's fun is to go in and open up one of the really old Native Instruments libraries. I'm not sure if I have them all in here. Synth. Percussion, woodwind, strings. And these don't have to sound great or anything. Yeah, something like this. Okay, so we're just going to record this. I take off this loop. All right, so we got this G in here. Cool, and let's make this 4-bar, something like that. All right, cool, so we've got 4. Yeah, okay, so we're going to bounce this, or print this. And let's just push this into a small shape here. Let's open this up a bit. We're just going to embed this automation right into the region of the audio file. Give this just a little bit of curve here. Just a little bit. All right, cool. So this sounds all right. Let's add a little something. It's a little modulation shine in there. Let's do sine vibes on this one. Luminance. Bring our size down a bit and our pre-delay down. Okay, let's get back into this automation here. All right, cool. So we've got these two. This one first. I'll fade in, fade out. And I'm gonna take this. What was that? A G? That was a G. Yes. Come back over here. Get this out. So this is a G. And a 1. Cool. And the other one was a noise. Well, excuse me. Let's do that one. Okay, and let's just steal this one too. This is synthetic noise. Did another one of these. Oh. What is this? Let's just tune this really quick. Nah, we don't need one. So, key non-specific. And, oh. D. This is an intensity of 4, complexity of 2. Sweet. You wish your contact library looked like that. Yes, the dirty bookshops, the dusty tomes kind, yes. Still use the library a lot here. Although it's been a very different experience in the pandemic. Oh, good. Twice Sold is actually technically still around, but they got kicked around so often that they're down to a tiny store with almost no books. Well, I mean, that's not good. I mean, I'm glad that they're in existence, but oh man, don't know if they even still have cats. Dude, that sucks. I hope that they have some sort of online presence that's good. I do know a lot of companies that have had to downsize, but increase their online presence, which is good. You know, Powell's is way more popular online than it is in person still. everything post 4050 BC is just really derivative, you know? In 4050 BC, we just stared into the fire. What a show! Well, to be fair, though, there were very few restrictions on psychedelics at that point, so staring into the fire was probably pretty awesome, actually. We probably still have not actually achieved that level of greatness with graphics yet. Oh, Luminance is great. Luminance is great. Oh, that sucks. Their website sucks. Oh, that's terrible. Should we do one more? Let's do another one. Let's just do another one. Let's just, what's something else that I haven't touched in ages besides the, the stock stuff from the NI library? Maybe some Signal or something? Excuse me. Organic and ambient and warm. Let's see what happens here. The nice thing about the Signal engine is that the ARPs are all based off the MIDI input, so they're actually quite flexible. A57, A7 suspended fourth. I haven't played around with this in forever. Let's bounce this chord right here. And let's call this let's do 8. Let's see what kind of pretty stuff we can make from this one, huh? Oops. No, I don't want to do modulator. I want a note repeater, maybe. And not 8th notes, maybe 16th notes. Or dotted 16ths even. Maybe we could transpose 1 and repeat 5 and go way down on our velocity ramp and Hang with me here. Okay, I think what we're going to do is we're going to force the shape first, then we're going to bounce, then we're going to process. So, oh, we're still in MIDI here. Decisions. Let's print this first. And then we're going to do the automation, and then we will bounce again. So we'll just put a little in and out on this. Okay, so now we'll just do this. Quick automation swipe here. Wait, what? Not sure what that message was. All right, so we'll say about 3 bars, 6 or so. And bring this whole thing back just a little bit more. All right, cool. So we'll just print that again. ARP again. Okay, now that we've got this in the right shape, let's cream this thing out. I'd like to get a little atmosphere in here. We can do luminance again. Okay, so before we head into that, let's just make this our own. Okay, now after luminance, get in here with a little bit of thermal. Just keep it really, really simple. All right, once from the top to see how this thing resolves. And just for safety, we'll fade in and out. Yeah, that's some good stuff right there. All right, so let's loop around that again. We'll bounce this, but we're gonna just go jack this. There's a synthetic pad. I guess we can use that. Oops, it's not what I wanted. There we go. And we're going to put in here swell synthetic pad ARP. OARP. Oh, you know what I didn't do in all of that is I never even stopped to look and see. What was I playing? Oh, I was playing a G. That's right. Complexity probably 5 on this one, and intensity is 3, and that's good. Pad ARP. That's a bell. Pad swell. Okay, good. Sweet. Should be a pretty good pack. All said and done. Should be a fun product line. They're all burning up high shelf Cali as firewood, right? Right? Yeah, it does have a bit of the African vibe to it. It's got a little with the dotted eighth or half in there, it's got a little bit of the like natural polyrhythmic swing in there. Paul, no worries, dude. It was a little quiet per your normal, but it was still quality. Hey, what's up, Subvids? And Blackberry Jam Studios. What's up, guys? Yeah, that is a lovely one, right, Zach? All right, maybe we'll do one more before I scoot out the door here. Let's see here. Yeah, let's do another one. Let's go back to Kontakt since it's done all right for us the last couple. Let's go into something else I haven't touched in freaking eons. It's working out. Ooh, hey, we could do some Fairlight or Straylight. Some Straylight. Doobie-doobie-doo, doodle-doo-doo-doo, loading Straylight. All right, maybe we don't need these. We don't need these. I'm gonna drop in my own. Let's just drop in one of my drones here really quick. We'll keep that side really simple. Simple, simple. Nah. Kind of hard to argue with that one. Okay, cool. I'll put Ronnie in here, over here. And over here, let's take and put in, let's do maybe some more space dust, since you guys are using that this month. Do another short one. That one might be kind of interesting. I kind of like this. It's funky. Let's see if we can make it work. All right. All right, we're going to turn off this one. Let's just go in here and look at this a bit closer. All right, let's listen to this other one for a sec. All right, let's see about moving this guy up. That's tuning S1. Tuning S1, so maybe LFO1. Oh, why isn't it working for me? Come on now. Ah! There we go. And it was not grabbing. All right, let's see what this sounds like here. And this is once, so let's go let's first. Let's just not even do this. Let's go sine and free. Slower. All right, so that's okay. All right. Let's drop this thing in the arrangement window here and print it really quick. Where am I starting this? I think that's our answer right there. What is this? E-ish. Let's try this. Oh. All right, so we gotta ditch it before it comes back up. So it's like here. I'll just get in there. Let's massage the release just slightly. Yeah, that's the one. It's at 24, 21. Let's just print this really quick and get it out. Sure, we'll call this Blade Runner. And then we'll just turn this off. Because Straylight is a beast. Okay, 24 LUFs. Let's see what we can get away with. Let's get thermal on. And we're going to keep it really simple. We're going to add just a little glue. And we're going to double down. We're going to finish it with some overdrive. And then we're going to go in and we're going to back off of our decibels and kind of force that room in our LUFs again. disco right there. Beautiful. Let's just double check our EQ. Yeah, we could tighten it a little bit. Let's just go to like 26, 25. Yeah. I'm going to increase my harmonics just a little bit here. Oh, that's going to be so good because when someone else comes in here, because that leaves so much room for someone to boost this thing. So let's just toss like some bit crusher on here or something, or some, yeah, I guess that's good enough. Oh yeah, some clip or something on there. That sounds excellent. All right, so let's bounce this thing. This is, oh boy, what is this going to be? It could be a pad. And it was at E. Intensity 4, complexity 3. Yeah, that's fine. All right, all right. So I guess we ended up doing both today. We made our brains bigger, and I got a few things done. Oh no, anytime someone mentions Blade Runner, you got to watch it again. Yep. Hey, Whiskey, what's up, dude? Taking the serum and going through the portal. Very nice. Man, that's funny that you bring that up, Paul. I've just started introducing Mary Poppins to Nico. We've watched it in like 3 different chunks now, so we're like an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes through it or something like that. Lots of stuff there. He freaking loves it. He turns 5 this week, you guys. 5. Dude, Flash Gordon, the original Flash Gordon's amazing. Watch Nobody on DVD last night, huh? Matrix Machine City, right? Right? Yeah, right. I know, 5. 5. Man, yeah, he turns 5 on Wednesday. It's breaking my mind just a little bit, but at the same time, it's like so easy to take in stride because he's growing every day, right? It's not like it's just 1 year flashes. But still, freaking 5, man. Seriously. Oh, nice, Whiskey. Your boy just turned 4. Nice. Oh yeah, Ghibli films. Man, he loves those too. Nice, Paul. Kid turns 20 in a couple of weeks. Good for you, dude. Let's see who's playing. I'll get the stuff posted to the class channel. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Let's see. Deadmau 5 is streaming still. Mr. Sketty. Anybody got any requests today? Or should we just go surprise someone completely random? Maybe we should do that. Maybe we'll go... Let's go surprise Slippery Haze. We haven't said hello to him in a long time, huh? I will check my DMs, homie, and I'll respond to you as quickly as I can. Let's go see what kind of beat Slippery Haze is cooking up today. Who knows what he's doing. All right, kitty cats, now's the time when I say I appreciate you and thank you for tuning in and all that good stuff. We will return on Wednesday. We'll produce a bunch of stuff together. Friday will be feedback time, so you can start assembling your clips. Oh, man. Twitch says it's not working. Let's see if it is. Yep, still not. So let's try that again. All right. Something went wrong. It's not letting me raid, you guys. Why is that? Poor Twitch. Growing pains. Jeff Bezos is streaming. Jeff Bezos is streaming. It's the only reason we can't raid anyone else right now. We'll try one last time to raid someone. They're having problems. All right, kitty cats, I guess this is the time when we resort to just a little bit of sign-off music, I guess. Huh? I will see you guys on the flip on Wednesday. Until then, stay inspired and be good out there. Oh, now it's rating. Okay. Twitch is having problems.
Very my bro. Hope you had a good stream. Hope you have a good rest of your day. I appreciate you, bro. Anyone coming into the stream, wog fucking wizzy. Love, appreciate that. Yo, everyone go check out my bro.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
What the fuck is this?
Hey, stop. Shut up.
I can't believe you dropped 3 songs.
Hey.
Yeah, we chillin', man.
Hey, little baby, you fucked up. Bo, y'all him will be making mistakes like I'm keeping it real with you. I don't think you the one. Do you?